I couldn't sleep. I didn't realize how bad my breathing was. And right here, like we can play the audio of my breathing because Bree recorded me when I actually did fall asleep. Welcome back to the next aid station. I'm your host, Jake Kilgore, co-host, my guy, Mick Garrison here as well. We have so much to touch on. My voice is hammered. My body and mind are wrecked. Very, very foggy on this Wednesday morning post Tahoe 200.
Your voice does sound a little wrecked.
Bro, I can barely function.
You earned that, sir.
I earned every step of not being able to function properly.
There's so much to talk about. I literally don't even know where to start. Let's just start here. Did you sleep? Because I know you didn't sleep during the race.
You hear my smokers cough and my smokers laugh?
Yeah. You sound like Uncle Marge.
Listen to that, dude.
Oh, I mean,
yeah.
Before we dive into it, I ran 36 miles with you, and I was coughing up.
So
if you run 208, I can only imagine with those lungs.
So Bree and I met a gal that worked for Destination Trails. I don't know if she's on the medical staff or not. I can't remember, but she works for them. And she was telling us at the finish line that for years they have been calling it the Tahoe cough.
Oh.
That it's like a thing with their race on that course. It's got something to do with the dust or the trails or I don't know what's in the air. But after logging a bunch of miles, people are hurting in that race.
Like the winner, Harry, went straight to the hospital.
Harry went straight to the ER post running a 53-hour 200. Spends the night in the ER. He's good now. But I honestly thought I was going to go to the ER. When Bree was driving me home and I was just breathing, like I'll probably have Steven plug the audio in, but she recorded the audio of me breathing. And it's just this.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it was rough.
I mean, first time in your life you hit my albuterol.
Yeah, and it was, dude, that was funny. I didn't know how to do it.
I know. You just like puffed it and all the medicine just floats away in the air.
I'm like, did that work? I'm like, oh, I think I just got high.
I feel great. Oh, dude. So back up. I feel like we were just here doing the pre-race video. And there was a moment when we drove down, we rented that van, drove down, and we leave Reno and we're driving up. First time I've ever been to Tahoe. Beautiful. And we start to see the trails, the water, the rocks, the actual stuff that you were going to be climbing. And you're like, it just got real right now. Describe that.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Well, yeah. It's a 8-hour drive, whatever it was. And we had to climb. We go through Reno, we start climbing the canyon. And we're both looking out there like, this is amazing. And just as you get to the top of the crest, you summit, you start to coming down the windy. You were like, this just got real, didn't it? And I'm like, oh, yeah. For the first time in 2 years since I signed up, this is real. I'm looking at the trees, the trails, the rock, the terrain, how steep the mountains are. Like, where am I going to be going? Where am I coming from? And I'm like, I'm going to be there in about 24 hours.
Yeah. Those are the actual trails I'll be on. Here we go.
Yeah. That was when it like hit me like, you better be ready because it's here.
So we go up to there was another moment that was kind of like that when we got to the packet pickup. When you get to the lodge and you kind of curve around to the left and then you just see all the flags and the trucks and the whole
drop bags.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that whole thing. And you're like, okay, here we go. So going into it, you're down there. How'd you feel? How was your mind?
I mean, going into it, I felt like I was anxiously ready. like we talked about on the last show, but it was like the training, the time. It's been several years. I love the trails. Like, okay, let's go. Like, can we please start? You kind of get that way right before any race.
But were you nervous, or were you just like, let's do this?
I wasn't nervous. I was more just anxious to start.
Yeah, just that anticipation.
Yep. Yep.
Yeah. So I mean, when you go start this race, and we're there with you, but it's 100K before we can see anyone, or before you can see anyone. So you go out, you start this race. Harry takes off. You're kind of in the 20th place, just kind of settle in. What's your strategy going in? How'd you feel once the race started?
So I'll describe the course a little bit for the listeners. So the course is you essentially start. I mean, lack of a better term, we'll say you start in the middle of the course, and you run south 32 miles, and then back up north 32 miles. So you essentially run 100K out and back. And to me, that was like a warm up. That's the warm up to when the race actually starts. I'm going to go out, I'm going to do 100K with no pacer, no crew, and I'm just going to try to settle in, just get a good running pace. And I didn't want to go out too quick, too fast. I just wanted to, like, honestly, I strategically placed myself like in the middle of the pack, knowing there was a Congo line climb. And I get really impatient in these climbs, but that's what I needed. Because if I place myself in the top 10, I'm being forced to hike or possibly run some sections early that I didn't want to get myself into. So I was like, I'm just going to go middle of the pack and just walk. It's going to be kind of an impatient kind of moment. But I think I probably, when the race started off, I probably placed myself somewhere between 30th and 40th. And I was just like, I'm going to hang out for an hour. I'm just watching my clock. I'm getting to know people in front of me, behind me, just talking and chatting for a solid hour, because it was going to be 3.5 hours before I hit the first aid station anyway. So I was just kind of chilling.
It's hard for you to do that. I mean, maybe with a 200 miler, you were able to adjust, but you're like, let's go. Let's move.
Yeah. Yeah.
Your
Knowing, yeah.
competitive side comes out.
Yeah. Knowing it was 200 and I'd never gone that distance, I was like, I'm here. This is my day. This is what I'm doing. And just chill out for a little bit.
Bro, every time you do that, it pays off.
Yeah.
It's funny.
Yeah. I know. And it paid off. Yeah. So as far as like the race, going through the race kind of chronologically, I guess, like got into the first aid station right on point, according to our spreadsheet, 3.5 hours. Got my drop bag, replaced my electrolytes, replaced my knack, and I was in and out of that aid station in 5 minutes. We had budgeted like 10 minutes, and but I found myself behind like two different groups of 10, like in the single track jogging,
Hmm.
like running in. And I just kind of hung out behind the group of 10 guys and gals. I was just hanging out. I knew I was going slower than I wanted to, but I was like, no, this is good. This is what I need to be doing. I kind of used the other runners as my pacers to like
Sure.
slow me down, to just like, there's no reason to rush out to 9-10 minute
Are you
mile
like
pace.
talking to him, or are you just like kind of dialed, just hanging back?
A little of both, a little of both. I got a guy behind me at one point when we were in a group of 10. A guy behind me recognized my name on my bib that was on my pack, and he said, "Hey, are you Jake with DC Peaks?" And talked
Oh
about
yeah, let's go.
yeah. So we talked about DC Peaks, and he lives in Washington State now, but he married a gal from Fruit Heights, lives right by me, and so she went to Davis High, and so he kind of is familiar with the race, and so had several really good conversations, just hanging out, getting to know people from all over the country, some Canadians, some people from back east. There was a guy from Philadelphia there. I mean, it was just kind of hung out with whoever was by me, but for the most part, yeah, just try to get to know people and talk to them.
So what are you seeing? What's the course like? Describe it for people that haven't been there.
So in like the first section or two,
Just yeah, your impressions of
dude, the first 100K was 99% single track.
That's amazing.
It was unreal, dude.
That's really hard to find.
Yeah, there was like a couple snow crossings on like some north facing stuff, kind of jump a few rivers. But I would say that first 100K is the most beautiful section of that entire course, which is almost a shame because none of your pacers get to see it.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I got to see all of it in the daylight and fresh. And so you really get to take it all in and just enjoy the fact that you're in the mountains of Lake Tahoe. So it was like I mean, that first section, the only 1% is you cut through like a park kind of, and you're kind of on like you like go through like an asphalt parking lot and you cross a road. Other than that, like you're on single track.
You're like, what is this?
Yeah, what is this asphalt I'm on?
Ben Light said the same thing. Said the first 100K of that is just the best.
Yeah, it was phenomenal.
Maybe because you get really tired after that and it's not as
You just
special
hate
anymore.
everything.
Because I picked you up at the 100K mark, and I was like, it was nighttime, but still, I was like, dude, these trails are unbelievable.
Yep.
Maybe it's because bikers go there, or because it's like just a super nice area, but they like cut down all the trees that had fallen. Like it's a perfect trail.
No, yeah, the trail system is unreal. We talked about it last time, and I mean, now just spending all that time on them. Yeah, I can't say enough about the course. The trail is just awesome.
You mentioned that, so still in this first 100K, you didn't have any crew. You felt like you got your strategy on before we talked about, you were talking to Bree Irvine about what like goose or, like what knack you were going to put in the drop bags. You crushed that.
Yeah, I don't know how we nailed that so well. So essentially, what you do is you run 15 miles to Armstrong Pass, drop bag. You go another roughly 15 or 17, something like that, to Housewife, drop bag. Then come back to Armstrong, drop bag, and then you're back at the start finish where I picked you up as a pacer. So I put enough knack in the first drop bag for aid stations 1 and 3, right? The knack, and then I had like a small bottle of relight. So I was taking a cup of relight and grabbing like 2 500 milliliter flasks of knack at every single aid station. And this was the most dialed my nutrition ever was in a race. Like my stomach was on point for 60 hours. I There was only one little instance where my stomach was just a little upset, but didn't stop me from eating or drinking. But my stomach was just locked in. I never cramped. I never and I think it was just like the regularity of like every 4 to 5 hours, shot of relight, 2 new flasks of knack, and then we're rolling.
Same thing every time.
Yep.
Well, and on top of that, you changed your diet going into this race. I don't know if
Yeah.
we talked about that in the previous podcast. You really you cleaned it up. I wonder how that played in to the whole thing, just the way you went in, each aid station just dialed.
Yeah, I think the stars had to align perfectly. I had to run a flawless, perfect race to do what I did. I mean, I don't I never in a million years imagined podium at the Tahoe 200 ever. It
Okay.
wasn't even a thought. It was like everything would have to go perfect, and it did. Like everything lined up.
It was amazing. So when we did our podium picks, obviously we didn't pick you. What a
That was rude.
terrible mistake.
That was rude.
Terrible
I was
mistake.
offended that you didn't pick me.
You wrote down some notes like you do
I did.
prior to when we're going to pick our watch list and our podium winners. For every race you do this, and you wrote down your dark horse people to watch.
Mm-hmm.
You didn't share this with anyone, but you put yourself on the dark horse list. Why didn't you say anything? Did you write that after, Jake?
This is true. This is true that I did not share it. So our podium, which we nailed, by the way, we said Harry Hubertus, Michael McKnight, Killian Korth, and they led the race, and they were there the majority of the day.
Start to finish.
Yep. Um, Killian, unfortunately, injury drops at mile 150. But the two dark horses that I named, Nathan Williams and Adam Kopeny, I actually ran with Adam for 30, 40 miles. And he's strong. And I knew who he was because I saw his name on his pack.
You're like, hey, I, I picked you
Hey,
for.
I picked you, man.
What's
You
up,
better
man?
start going faster. And I put my name down on my own notes. It was like Jake Kilgore. And I was like, why not?
You literally wrote, "Why not?"
Uh-huh. And I was like, why not? And then I didn't share it because I was just like, no, I'm not. I'm not picking because I didn't feel like I had any business being there because it's my first 200. It's unknown. My training was, you know, good,
It was
but
different though.
it was different. So I didn't know how it would affect. I
Yeah.
was going into it with a new plan, and there's just so much unknown. I was like, there's just no way.
Well, also we should mention there wasn't a chump field, dude.
Yeah,
That was like a legit field. So
right.
to say like, I mean, you were hoping for a finish, but you were hoping for like top 20. That would have been awesome.
Yeah, I mean, my goals going in, as you know, my goals going into every big race that's like this, where there's a big field. It's not a local Utah race, it's a big national race like this. My two goals typically are finish in the 90th percentile. So in this case would be top 25. And I want to finish with the podium women. Those are usually like my goals. That's usually where I'm at. It's kind of my pace, my strength. So mentally I was like, yeah, if I finish with podium women in the top 20, then that's a great freaking race, dude.
Oh yeah,
Very, very happy with that.
that's phenomenal. Yeah, that's. I mean, Mika, she certainly had a good race, but it was cool because on the out and back,
Yeah.
you got to see Mike McKnight and have a moment with him.
Yep. Yep.
What?
I chatted with Mike quickly on both out and backs and Killian actually. High five both of them both times. Talked a small piece of strategy with Mike at one point, which was pretty cool because
Oh, that's amazing.
did I tell you that?
What? What? How?
It was
Tell
like
us about that.
it was like midnight and I was around mile 130. I was with Jen. Jen was pacing me and we're running into Tahoe City. So the very end of the course before you come all the way back. So I'm around mile 130. It's freaking midnight. I'm hammered. I haven't slept an ounce yet. I
No.
think my watch was around 38 hours at that time.
Well, because if you back up just a little bit before, you ran with Liz and did a huge climb, and it
Mm.
was exposed. It was hot.
Yep.
That you got, and luckily she's such a good climber, help you get through all that. Then starts to cool down a little bit. You're rolling with Jen.
Yeah. And we run into Mike. I mean, you kind of start seeing them coming back, the leaders. I honestly didn't know what place I was in. I knew I was somewhere in the top 10, like 6, 7, 8, 9, somewhere in there. And I actually was in fourth, but I'd been moving so slow in that section. I was depleted. I hadn't slept yet. Ran out of some of my nutrition.
It's like dark, and you're not paying attention
It's
to.
dark, dude. I'm cooked. And we get passed by some dude moving really well. And then I run into Mike coming back the other way. And I talked to him and I was like, hey, this is how far back you are from the person in front of you. And he was like, I'm like, go get him, dude. Like, make a move. And he's like, okay. He goes, hey, he goes, fifth place. He goes, fifth place is only 25 minutes ahead of you. He's like, I got your back if you got mine. It was just kind of like a, hey, what's up?
He's like, hey, you go get him too.
Go get him too. And I was like, all right, man, thanks. And in my head, I'm like, oh, I can barely move right now, dude. I'm so hammered. Um,
That was the lowest part of the race for you.
that was the lowest low I got, was between miles 130 and 135 with Jen, where I was just like, I was hammered, dude. Like I needed to get off my feet, get some real food in my body, and just get through the night.
That is when you entered into unknown territory. I mean, right before that, right? Furthest you've gone is 108 miles.
Yeah.
So that was the first time your body has ever done that. You had just come out of the heat. You got lost. Talk about that. So mentally, you're like frustrated. All of that going into that aid station.
Yeah. A lot happened on that section. You're right. I think I picked Jen up around mile 115 or something like that. And we went from Brockway to Tahoe City. And it's a lot of that section, the whole second half of that section is very rocky, um, like loose, jagged rocks. So you can't, even if I was moving well, like you can't, it's tough to run on. And if you're running on it, probably beating your body up. So we're just like navigating, walking through it. But yeah, right before that, we somehow missed a turn. We get down to the bottom of this T in the trail. And there's no signs to go left or right. We passed Harry. So we're like, we know we're on the right track because Harry just came up this hill.
Yeah, you just saw the leader of the
I
race.
just saw the leader. Like, why are there no signs? Anyway, we got on the phone with you. We're on our maps. We're doing all this stuff. Anyway, we make our way back onto the course.
You're like, that just cost us 2 miles.
I'm like, that cost me probably a couple miles in an hour.
Oh,
And I'm like, I have no idea if I've been passed. I don't know what place I'm in. Like, what? We just got to get back on course. Turns out that it only cost us a mile max and maybe 30 minutes because of all the back and forth. But in the moment, it was tough to remain composed and not just be like, we're freaking screwed. We are so screwed. Like, my race is done.
I couldn't get over it. Jen certainly still is not.
Yeah.
But because when the race is so tight, we'll get to that. You're like, you can't help but think, what would I do to get those 2 miles back? It turned out it wasn't 2 miles, but in the moment, we're like, oh my gosh, I would give anything to get those 2 miles back. But then I'm like, I don't know, did that push him to a new level of like determination that maybe he wouldn't have, like, who knows?
Yeah. In the moment, because I hit that low of lows, like when I passed Mike and we were walking into Tahoe City, when I was in that dark place, one of the main things in the back of my head was like, I'm looking at my watch and it says mile 135. And I'm like, we should be there. But I'm not going to be there till 137 because of.
Oh yeah.
So I'm already in my head, like, I should be at the aid station. I should be eating chicken noodle soup. I should be taking a nap.
Yeah.
Shoulda, coulda, woulda. And man, it's a real testament of like mental strength to just be like, nope, it's over with. And Jen and I kept talking about it. Well, how'd that happen? How'd we miss it? How come Harry didn't say anything? Harry took the wrong route too, and we passed him. And why didn't he tell us we were on the wrong route?
Yeah,
And
that would weigh on you too. Like, what the hell, bro?
yeah,
When
wait, you were coming up the wrong trail and you didn't tell us? Or maybe he was on the right one. And so
he didn't know it, he didn't even know.
yeah, so after kept talking about it, Jen and I were both like, no, like it's done, it's behind us, we're on the trail. There's nothing we can do about it. Let's stop talking about it. So we just stopped talking about it because it was like nothing you can do. You got to be able to navigate and like change. The course changed, but like you got to get your mind right because that'll eat you up, and you won't. It'll hurt your race.
This is the first of 2 times that I can think of, and we'll get to the other one, that the reality of the race is not what you thought.
Mm-hmm.
You didn't lose 2 miles because I was like, all the other runners that didn't get lost were complaining that it was longer than the map showed. So I was like, everybody is saying that this is running long. So he's thinking that they just lost 2 miles, but really he didn't. And everybody else is complaining, but he doesn't know that.
Right. Yeah, no, it's man, I learned so much in this race, and that's got to be somewhere near the top of the list, which is like it's so easy to get in your own head about, oh, I'm moving so slow. I lost a bunch of time. I'm this, I'm that, thinking that everyone else is just feeling great and running a perfect race, and you're just the only idiot on the trail. And it's like, no, dude, everyone's hurting right now. Everyone's like getting lost here or there sometimes. Like you just do. Sometimes,
That's a good point. That is
yeah,
hard to remember because, as we're crewing you, we're just like those things can it's hard to let them go, dude.
yep, you got to let them go and move on.
So, um you make it into that aid station. You mentioned after we, like it was a cool vibe. We took down our fire pits, kind of set up camp kind of there. So everybody's sitting around the fire pits and the chairs. It's dark. It's like this nice, cool vibe. And you roll in and
Bro, at mile
you
135.
yeah,
Yeah.
I was like,
So mile
you
135,
hurting.
Tahoe City, I rolled in, and which is it's cool because you pop off this trail and you're literally in the city. You run past like the fire station. I think there was a police station. You cross the street at a light. Like you're all of a sudden you pop out from like the middle of the forest
Yeah, I
and
saw you come across a gas station.
yeah, I'm
Like,
like, boom, you're just in the middle of a town. That was kind of cool. Like, oh my gosh, I've traveled all the way over here. And then we come into the parking lot and you guys have your own little station set up. And that fire was just like, the vibes were just so awesome. And you guys had a chair already for me with a coat and blanket. I sat in the chair and I think I would have fallen asleep in 5 seconds. I sat in that chair and just put my head back and just I was out.
yeah, because at some point earlier, you're like, I want, like, am I just gonna do this without sleeping? I talked to Ben Light at that aid station, and he's like, he will crumble if he doesn't rest here. He needs to rest. Mike McKnight took it turned out to be like a 5-minute nap, but
Mhm.
so you came in, and I was like, it's time because you look like hell,
Yeah.
and
Well, in the previous 3 aid stations, when I was with you at night, and then I was with, Liz, and we had talked at every aid station. "Jake, you wanna sleep?" Like, "No, dude." "You sure you don't wanna just" I'm like, "No, dude, I'm good." Like, the strategy and the plan was, when tired well, when sleepy, I will sleep. Until then, I'm rolling,
yep,
and if I don't get tired until I'm on the trail, then I'll dirt nap it. And yeah, we definitely redlined it all the way to the very end and pushed until yeah, Tahoe City, mile 135. It was like it came crashing down.
so it's very dark there, which was nice. We got the fire pits going. We got the van like backed up to the fire pits, and everyone's out there. So the idea was, let's just put you in the recovery boots, put you in the back of the van, and you gotta sleep, dude. You gotta sleep. When Ben had told us, let him sleep for 45 minutes so he can hit a REM cycle, and everything's gonna change for him. That's not how it played out.
Yeah, and I was all for the boots. I was all for the van. I think I sat in the chair, had 2 cups of chicken noodle soup. I immediately started feeling better. I'm kind of more talkative now. I'm like, okay, let's get him in the van. I get in the van, get the boots on. But when I laid down, I couldn't sleep. I didn't realize how bad my breathing was. And right here, like we can play the audio of my breathing because Bree recorded me when I actually did fall asleep. I fell asleep for 10 to 15 minutes a couple times in that 45 minutes. Like I'd fall asleep and I'd just wake up super uncomfortable. Like my knee started hurting. The the compression boots just making that noise, the pss,
Oh
pss,
yeah.
that was kind of bugging me. So after like 10, 15 minutes of the boots, I'm like, get these things off of me. I was super claustrophobic in there. I was on the top bed. I felt like I was right next to the ceiling. There's no room. My body's like overheating. My face and head, dude, felt like I was running a fever. Like everything was hot. And so I was just like, I started like hyperventilating. I was just like, get these boots off of me. I ended up falling asleep again. And like the wheezing, I mean, I still have 80 miles to go.
It wasn't even the recovery boots, it was your lungs.
It was, yeah. I thought it was the boots going, psst, psst, but no, it was me breathing with this like gaspy, super short of breath, like an elephant was sitting on my chest. Like I had emphysema. It was just like,
That's ideal for running.
yeah, if you got 80 more miles to go, that's certainly how you'd want to be
I
breathing.
think it was a mistake to try and sleep in the recovery boots, dude. Those things have given me, and I've never run that far, but like even on shorter distances, that they have like given me a cramp in my foot. They're nice in a lot of ways, but I'm like, I don't know if you should sleep in those.
Yeah, I don't know. I felt like when they were on me, they weren't tight enough. They were just sticking to my legs and the noise. But I'm like, I don't feel like they're even massaging or compressing.
You
I'm like,
probably had no feeling in your legs.
yeah, I'm like, just get these things off of me. They're not doing anything for
And
me.
you had your you run in calf sleeves.
Hmm.
So like you had a lot going on.
I think the most important thing that I learned there was like, even if I don't get really good sleep or I'm a little restless, just getting horizontal for 45 minutes and getting the pack off, take your shoes off, and just getting horizontal for 45 minutes. That alone, I think, is just so important for your mind and your soul to like reset for the next push.
You ate some food there.
So, yeah, I ate before and after I laid down.
Yeah, because you were a different person coming out of there.
Yeah, so I got
Like
out
that
of,
sleep helped you, dude.
yeah, for sure. For sure. I think Bree thinks I slept about 20 minutes. So, between the, maybe two little 10-minute, really good, just deep snoring, like Darth Vader sleep sessions. And I got out, got redressed. I was freezing, sat by that fire and ate. I don't know what I ate: eggs, pancakes, bacon, more chicken noodle soup. And the coolest thing about when I was eating, Jones, who's going to pace me this back from Tahoe City to Brockway, which is says 19 miles, but it ended up being like over 20 mile section. And she's like, Jake, I know you probably don't care about this right now, but no one has left this aid station. And my eyes perked up like, what? I just laid down for 45 minutes. She's like, no one. She's like, one guy came in before you, two have come in since you, and they're all sleeping. One of them's puking.
Oh, he was not sleeping. That's what I was gonna say.
Yeah. She's like, they're wrecked, Jake. Like, you're doing awesome. And that was just so good to hear. Because Elle, obviously, super experienced, very, very good runner. Such a great pacer. I mean, she was so rad. She was so, so good. But her just giving me the confidence of like, you took the right amount of time for you, and we're going to get moving. And we're going to get out of here while everyone else is sleeping and trying to recover. So we ended up taking off at 1:05. So she woke me up at around 12:50. She's like, Jake, my goal is to get you out of here at 1:05. I'm like, okay. And we did. We got out at 1:05. We didn't see another runner coming our direction for at least an hour. maybe an hour and a half.
You're like, "Oh, were we on the wrong trail again?"
Yeah. I'm like, Elle, where is everyone? She's like, Jake, they're all sleeping. This is night number 2. Everyone's freaking wrecked, and you're moving.
Or you were, dude. You maybe like you had pulled away from a lot of people. They
Yeah.
were way back there.
So I didn't even know what place I was in. Again, I was like, I really don't concern myself with the exact place. I'm just more like, oh, I'm somewhere top 10. Oh, that's cool. Like, that's really cool. But come to find out, I left that aid station before them. I was quite efficient getting in and out of aid stations. I think that really helped as far as my placement goes, like all day. But I was in 4th place leaving that aid station. And we got my body moving. We got a climb out of there, got to the top, hit some jogs, and really got the body going. And I would say 30 to 45 minutes into that section with L, I started to like wake up and get my groove back.
What was crazy for me to see is the aid stations were pretty dialed. That you had, I mean, I guess we could just say you had your whole family there. There's a lot of people all up in your shit. Did you, I mean, obviously you love your family and want to see them, but did you even think about that? Did that bug you? Were you just like, because I was aware of that. My kids are there. People are just like, oh, like, what?
It I was not aware of it in the sense that you described it. I mean, to me it was awesome. It was never like overwhelming to me like, oh, there's so many people. I mean, we had like I said, we had like a 20-man crew with all my kids, your kids,
Yeah.
all of our everyone, the pacers, everyone. I never once felt it was chaotic. It was chaos. This is unorganized. Who's in charge? How come everyone's screwing around? Like
You
I,
felt good.
dude, I felt like I was being absolutely cared for in every form and fashion. Like all my kids had a responsibility, a thing that they were in charge of. All the adults on the team had like, I'm doing this, you're doing that. I never felt like there were too many hands.
Bree's trying to get you your nutrition. She crushed on that.
Yep.
Um, redoing the water and the electrolytes and all that. Jansen Henry working the feet. I don't know how you pulled that off.
My dogs.
Th-
Dogs on dogs.
Dogs on dogs.
Hmm.
That was that was huge.
Yeah, I mean,
No blisters at 208 miles. You didn't get a blister, bro.
I know. I honestly have said it, and I think I probably had the best looking feet in all of Tahoe 200. Those guys were just on point. I don't know. They it was every 30 to 50 miles, whenever it was. Whenever I felt like, yeah, we have some time. I want to take some. If I'm going to eat a bunch of food, let's just wash my feet and get in between every toe and get new socks on. And I changed socks 4 or 5 times.
It's a good lesson for people to learn if they want to do these type of things. When that sand gets in there and starts rubbing, then you know, you're going to get blisters. To get you wore those toe socks.
In Gingy.
Those seem to work very well. Those cleaning the feet. One time a medic like taped up a hot spot. I was like banging your shoes to get
Mm-hmm.
all the dust out.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, nothing to change there, dude. That was dialed.
Yeah, yeah. There are a few moments in the race that could be detrimental, like make or break decisions that I have to make on my own when I'm on the trail. And one of them was at like there were 2 of them at mile 32. I was just by myself. I just hit the end of that out and back. I just got to Housewife and I turned around to come back up. And I got a tiny rock in my shoe. In a 100K or 100 miler, I probably would have left it. It wasn't like that big of a deal. But I'm like, no, we got a long couple days ahead of me. I got 200 miles. I'm not letting this little rock create something in my foot that's going to bother me for the next 50 hours. I pull over, take my left shoe off, dump the rock out, put it back on. A few miles later, I'm like, my foot hurts. and I had tied my shoe too tight.
Oh,
And
so,
so I
so the rock did get you.
so the rock didn't get me, but my own freaking shoelace did. So I loosened my shoe up, go a couple more miles, and it still hurts. I loosen it again, it finally starts to relieve the pain. But I ran like the top of my left foot ached the entire race, and it still hurts today. Like, and today's Wednesday.
It looked painful. It was swelling up. Henry's hitting it with ice.
Yeah, so when he took my shoes off and my socks off to wash my feet, Henry would grab a chunk of ice and just ice the top of my foot for like 5 minutes. And but it's like, yeah, if you leave the rock in, obviously I somehow just tied it too tight. I don't know how I did that. But those are things where like you just get to make the decision as a runner. This is just temporary pain. It's not an injury. You just got to run through it. Yeah, it hurts. And I wish that wasn't there. But here I am, and this is the race I'm in, and let's go.
I never ever saw you complain or like you you didn't want to go out. Like that I've been in races, not a 200 miler, where I was just like I had to be pushed out of the aid station.
Mm-hmm.
It was interesting for me to see like you're like let's go. And that's even when you're at like 150 miles. Like I was like looking at you. I'm like you look like shit, dude. And you're like, "Cool, let's go." I'm like, "What?"
Don't show me a mirror.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
That drive was that was something.
I still look back at it, like I don't know how I did that. I don't know how I just kept rolling like I was fresh, but I wasn't fresh, but I think I just locked into a routine. And the routine was like I get into the aid station, I take my pack off, I hand it to Bree. She does her thing. I don't even have to worry about it. She swaps out the bladder, takes my trash out, puts new nutrition in, puts my 500 milliliters of NAC in, and my pack is just ready to go. I'm like, hey, I want this shirt. I want that hat. In the meantime, I'm telling my wife, Bree, I want this food. I want that food. This sounds good. That sounds good. They're just bringing me plates of food while Henry and Jance are on my feet. And then you and I are strategizing about the next section, what we're doing. And it's all just happening like a mini business operation. And it's just like everyone has their role. I think I fell into that routine that was like the second I get there, I sit down, I slam a relight, and everything just flows
Yeah, you did the exact same thing every time.
every single time.
I'm gonna go suffer for a minute
Mm-hmm.
or 5 hours,
Mm-hmm.
and then we'll just do it again.
Yep. Okay, welcome back after a short potty break.
You just went and took a nap.
I went and took a quick
15
nap,
minutes.
middle of the podcast, and we'll take a quick moment to recognize our sponsors. To come back, DC Peaks, of course, was there in full throttle, supporting me on my race, as well as Rockstar. I will say this about Rockstar: I slammed one or two rock stars at every aid station, starting at mile 82.
I recorded it. It wasn't like hey, we're sponsored by Rockstar. I need to do this. It was hot. You were in it, dude, and you really wanted that.
I'm like, give me the rock star.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, the first one at mile 82, I hit two of them. Just slammed two of them, dude.
Yeah, they came through big time.
With relight, with knack, with eggs and bacon, everything else. And then I had one every aid station there on out, including the last aid station at mile 190. I was jogging and I straight slammed a full one.
Yeah.
And I put the drink in the pouch of my pack. When I came into the aid station, I had a rock star right here on my back, dude. Front left breast. I was just rolled in with a rock star.
The
And
breast.
like, huh.
Yeah,
Yes.
dude, they're the best partners. They're cool.
Yes. So thank you to Rockstar. If you are not training or racing or recovering with a Rockstar, highly, highly recommended from us. So let's jump back in.
When did it stop being fun?
I think the only moment where I was like, this isn't fun might have been those few miles leading into Tahoe City that we kind of touched on earlier. That was kind of like the moment where I was like, this is tough. Fun versus this is tough. I'm in a tough spot. I need to just get to the aid station. Honestly, all, all I thought about was I just need to get to the next aid station. I just need to get there. I just need to get there and lay down. It's almost midnight. I got to get there. And I know we're wearing our next aid station gear on the next aid station podcast, but it's like we talked about it a ton on the race. These sections were so long. Every section was 14 to 20 miles. So
Mostly like closer to 18 to
they were
20. There was like
almost,
one that was
there's
14.
one section that was 14. So I got to hit that one twice. But every section was like 17 to 19 miles. So at my pace, that was 4.5, 5 hours. And we kind of had this thing with Liz. Liz was like, we cannot, this is during the run. She's like, we cannot use get to the next aid station, Jake. She's like, we can only use that if we're within an hour of getting there. I'm like, okay. She's like, we are going to say, just get to the next mile. Just do the next mile, 1 mile at a time. And it really all comes down to that same mentality of like shortening your mindset and narrowing it to what's the next pinnacle? What's the next thing you're trying to achieve? Is it one step? Are you just trying to get to that tree? You're just trying to get to that sign? Is it a mile? Is it an aid station? So I think to answer your question, that I don't know that was never not fun. I think I was enjoying it the whole time, even when I was in the, you know, suffer city of it. And I was just like really, really in the dumps in that one spot. I never felt like, oh, this sucks. I hate this. Like,
That would have been ironic because you brought Jen on as a pacer for the fun. Like she's not GPX file girl. She's like brighten the mood, make it fun. So if it's like in that moment, that's when it went the darkest. I'm like, oh, sorry, Jen.
yeah. I mean, that's just the nature of the beast, right? Like, I think that's the cool part about the sport and how long these races are. If it's a 31-hour Bear 100 or a 60-hour Tahoe 200, it's not going to go according to plan. It's not going to be exactly how you planned it out. Our life is the same way. We plan this out and it's supposed to go like this, it's supposed to go like that, and my kids, and then my career, and all this stuff. It doesn't really ever go to plan. And so you have to be able to call the audible, switch it up, game plan, hit the reset button, figure it out. And that's really what happened on that section with Jen. We started off having so much fun, dude. This fun little downhill. We're playing music, we're laughing, like the vibes were awesome. Well, we missed a turn and things didn't go as planned. We had to like stay composed, regroup, get back on course, which we did. And then the sun went down. And then it was just like, okay, Jake's energy levels are zapped. So my energy levels were zapped. I needed nutrition. I needed to lay down. Jen, like, took it personal that, oh my gosh, I was pacing Jake and we missed a turn and it's my fault. Like, she took it like it was on her. I'm like, Jen, it's over. It's fine. Let's move on.
The winner of the race did the same thing.
Yeah, we're rolling, dude. So like it's just part of life. And I think it's just a life lesson, even inside a tiny little segment of a 200 miler. There's just these lessons that can always be learned. And it's like the lesson in that segment was like, it happens, man. It just happens. And you gotta move past
The
it.
fact that you did move past it when you're that tired and you're in it, that's really a testament to your mind. And you said going into the race, it's not going to be physical. My strength as a runner is what you say, your determination or your stubbornness.
Mm-hmm.
Well, you were right. The body was locked in, but the body is you're an athlete and you trained, but you did not win or get on the podium. I don't think because of that, because of your physical strength. You were right. That was mentally really something to watch.
Yeah, I think that it's just overcoming some of those barriers and I don't know, man. I got so many messages, texts, and Instagram and DMs, all this stuff. Like it's been quite uplifting, and it's been inspiring even for me. People that have messaged me, oh, this is super inspiring, and this and that. It's really cool. It's really cool to hear all of that and get all that feedback, and hopefully, my kids being a part of it is probably the most valuable thing that came out of this entire race. Is that my kids and my wife not only supported me and didn't sleep like I did. Like I didn't sleep hardly at all. They didn't sleep. They were up and moving and getting to the aid station and getting all this stuff ready and sitting in the sun and sitting in the cold. But my wife and kids, what the experience that they had watching me, I hope that they can take that with them forever. And that will be like something that we all did together. And it's a big adventure of experience. It's like, this is so much bigger than me and my own personal accolades that I got on the podium when I wasn't even a discussion beforehand. That's amazing, but I think they come out of it like learning so much about life and I think they can just overcome so much more and be a part of it. I think to me that's what I won. Like I won this experience with my kids and my wife that nobody can ever take from us. Ever.
For sure. And when you're like after the race seeing Emery's posts and how proud of her dad, that was really cool. You go back to the aid station and you see, I need a burger. Leah's gone, running over to get your burger for you. You scroll back through the pictures and Tyson just staring at his dad like dialed. Like you're like, well, he's gonna be an ultra runner someday. Look at that. And then you get to run a Father's Day weekend. I should mention when it like became a race
Yeah.
with your daughter Taya.
Yeah. I mean, you just touched on all four of them. And Bree and I have been chatting about this the last couple of days, just the long drive home and last night. And um, I mean, we've been on a lot of family vacations. We've been blessed enough to be able to go to a lot of cool places. To me, that experience and that trip slash vacation slash experience, whatever you want to call it, adventure to Tahoe, hands down, the coolest thing I have ever experienced with my family, ever. The best thing we've ever done collectively as a family was that. And I know it was all focused around me, but when you peel back the layers and like you said, you go back and you watch the videos and you look at the pictures and you see my kids' faces and you watch them and you see what they're saying to their friends and their comments and their posts and things, you really are able to extract like how much they really got out of it. And that was one of the first things I noticed when I was watching some of these videos. Tyson, who just barely turned 11, every aid station, he's just looking at me, just looking up at his dad, just watching me, watching every word. And I'm not even talking to him. I'm talking to you.
Yeah.
I'm talking to Steven's wife, Bree, about my pack. I'm talking to my wife, Bree, about this and that. And then I watch the video and I'm like, oh my gosh, dude. He's watching every move. He's staring at me. He grabs his own chair, pulls it up next to me, starts massaging my calves while I'm eating. And I'm watching. And I'm like, this kid is absolutely enamored by his dad and what he's doing. And I think, like, without having to say it, you're showing your kids that you can do hard things, that you can set goals, you can work hard, you can dedicate all this time into stuff and then go out and get it. And that's really what you're showing them.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. So Taya picked you up. So it was L paced you through a section. It's now daytime. Taya picks you up before Elle will pick you up again. Bro, this is when it starts to be like, um, I'm in third. Like I got a 50 miler left. I got DC Peaks left.
That's what I said on the
That's what you
video.
said.
Yeah, this is like this part of we'll just say our discussion on today's podcast. This is when the Tahoe 200 endurance run became an endurance race.
Bro, everything changed.
Oh, everything changed. The mood of camp, the mood of pacers, the mood of the crew, and me as a run, everything changed.
Yeah.
So I go from Tahoe City, death marching,
Yep.
to a nap and wake up, and L takes me 20 miles,
Uh-huh.
and we get to nobody passes us. I kind of know what place I'm in. She's getting messages, but she's not telling me what she's getting.
She told me that after.
Yeah, dude.
I was texting her. She's like, "Nah, I'm keeping that."
Yeah, so she was getting text messages about what place I was in, how the guys ahead of me were doing, da 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 da. She's just not saying anything. We get back into Brockway, and it's mile 155, and it's 7 a.m., give or take. And I roll in, and you guys are all there, fire pits rocking, chairs there, food's ready to go. And I don't remember who the first person was to tell me, but I walk in, and they're like, "Jake, Killian dropped." And my eyes like, "What?"
There's video of that.
There's a video of it that says Killian dropped. And I go, "What?" My first reaction was like, I felt really, really bad for Killian. Obviously, he's one of our guys. He won DC Peaks the first year. We both picked him on our podium. You picked him to win
I know,
Cocodona.
dude.
He has dropped at mile 150 in the last two Cocodonas and in this race. And it's absolutely heartbreaking. We've been messaging back and forth on Instagram. He had an MRI yesterday on his knee. I don't know the results yet, but at the end of the day, like I was more crushed that this young, incredibly talented athlete was not going to be on the podium because he's so deserving. He was in second place for 40 hours.
I know. He's so fast, so so talented.
Yeah.
I almost feel like he's getting a string of bad luck, and I'm like, oh,
Yeah. So it sucks. And that's where my heart went first. Was like, no way. I feel so bad. But on the flip side of that, on the other side of that coin is like, that's why you run the race. That's why you continue pushing through. That's why you keep racing. That's why me, as a runner who probably, no one ever would have picked me to be on the podium. That's why I keep plugging through. Just race my race, right? I'm going to stick to my plan. And whatever place I end up in, that's what I end up in. And fortunately for me and my family, my support team was like, hey, Jake ran his race and all the stars aligned. And he was the benefactor of landing on the podium. And so it's kind of this bittersweet for me. It's like it's freaking awesome, and I'm so proud of me and my team and what we all accomplished together. But at the same time, it's like, man, I feel so bad for that dude, and I hope him the best and healthy recovery. And I have no doubt he'll bounce back and he'll figure it out, whether it's his breathing or his knee or whatever. He's so young and so talented that he'll have his fair share of podiums,
yeah,
for sure.
So you're going through this section with your daughter, and it's a race now. You got Mark and Carson on your tail. Describe that section, what you're going through with Taya.
So this section is from Brockway to Valley Green, and it's about a 14-mile section. And it's 7:30 a.m. on Father's Day. And I'm like, we set this site apart, a week before that, and you and I are like, I'm running with Taya on Father's Day. Like, we're gonna have a couple segments to choose from. So we chose this one. Earlier it was a 20-mile section, but after I did the 20-mile section and the 14-mile section on the way out, I made the call with the team, and I was like, hey, on the way back, I want to switch Elle and Taya. I want to switch them because that 20-mile section is very, very hard. It's got over 4,000 feet of climbing. and I need L in that spot for me. And I think this other spot, this 14-mile section, has 3.5 mile of road. It's better suited for Taya. Just doesn't have near the experience L has, right? And I get to spend Father's Day morning with my daughter.
Perfect.
So we take off up this climb, and we actually made a wrong turn early. And Mark Vogel, right behind me, he sees me coming out of the aid station, and he's coming down. Bro, he checks in and just says Mark Vogel in, out. He just did a 20-mile section, didn't grab water, didn't grab fuel, didn't sit down, didn't change his socks, and he is on our butts. And he passes
So he
us.
sees it's a race.
Oh, he's like, I guarantee he knew Killian had dropped. And he saw me and it's a race. And he's like, I'm not resting. So I talked with Taya about it the whole time. Luckily, we took a wrong turn, but Mark saw us. And Mark's like, hey, it's over here. So Mark took us back
That's
on.
cool.
Yeah. So we're like, oh, we missed the turn. We'd only gone maybe 10 feet, but we did miss the turn. We're like, oh my gosh, that's the turn right there. So we drop down. We're behind him on this single track. Then we have to cross the road. As we're crossing the road waiting for cars, all four of us cross the road together. And then it's okay, who's going to go first on the single track? Mark and his pacer, and then me and Taya. And Mark, looks at us and kind of puts his hand out, like, why don't you guys go first? And I'm like, giddy up, bro. Let's go. At that moment, mile 156, it is a race. And I told Taya, we're burning some matches right here. If I crumble, I crumble, but we are moving right now. Like, it's time to go. So it was so fun talking this strategy with her. I was always looking forward to being able to have my daughter pace me on Father's Day. Never in a million years did I think that she would be pacing me in a race for podium.
The fact that you even had it in the tank to push. Holy crap, dude.
Yeah. So there was just a slow grade climb. So we power hiked it fast. And I told her, I said, hey, every once in a while, you just take a look back and just let me know how far, there. I said, I'm just going to push forward. I said, my goal is to push far enough away that they cannot see us at any turn or at any summit. When we climb, they won't see us. She's like, okay. And then there was a bunch of downhill. And she and I bombed these downhills fast because I wanted to hit these downhills hard. So when they got to the top of the summit and they looked down, they couldn't see us. We did that like 3 or 4 times. Then we got to this super, super steep technical stuff that I kept calling West Grandeur. We boogied down all that and then hit the road, and we never saw him.
So you're like, I think you were like 1.5 to 2 miles ahead, right?
Yeah, so we were even at mile 156, and I got 2 miles ahead of them because I was pushing. I got 2 miles ahead of them, got into Valley Green, and my initial thought was, we're going to Valley Green. I want all my food ready to go. I'm not changing my socks, and we're bouncing. But a mile out from Mile Green, I got really tired. It was hot. It was about 11 a.m.
Village Green?
Village Green,
Yeah.
sorry.
Okay. I'm
Village
with you.
Green. So this is now mile 170. And I was like, no, it would be a massive mistake to rush this aid station. I
And
go,
I wanted you to. I knew that you shouldn't. I think we all did. We're just like staring at these other guys or waiting to see when they come in.
yeah. And I was like, there's still 38 very tough miles ahead of us.
Smart.
And I was like, I'm not rushing this one to just blow up at the end. So I think one of the smartest in-game decisions we made was like, nope, we are changing socks. I'm changing shoes.
I'm eating.
I'm eating as much as I can. And I did all of that. Both those guys came in at the same time. And as soon as they came in, I was like, all right, I'm leaving. So they saw me, so they knew they were closer to me than they probably didn't know I had a 2 mile lead on them. But because I took my time there to reset my feet and my stomach and food, I think it was a net positive at the end, right? Take the 20 minutes so that mile 190, 200, you're now benefiting from that because you took the time at 170.
You take off with L. There's a little, I can see that you guys are lost ish. Like there's a back and forth, and I'm like, what are you guys doing? Go.
Yeah, it was weird. We walked off the trail and we hit the road, and I'm like, it's left. And she's like, okay. And then we go, oh, it's right. We walked in front of the aid station 3 times.
I know. I was dying.
We're walking, and I'm just eating food while walking. And she's like, it's this way.
She runs back to the aid station.
I go ask someone real quick which way we're supposed to go, which is weird because I'd already done this thing twice. I already come in and left twice. But it's just different when you're 170 miles in and it's 1 o'clock in the afternoon. Like, you're cooked. I'm just relying on her. I said, look, I'm trusting you. Whichever way you say we're going, we're going. She goes, Jake, it's this way. Like, okay, I'm following you. And lo and behold, she was right.
Yeah. I mean, you guys didn't really lose any time there, but it was
No.
just it was a different experience because I'm like, we're actually racing. This is crazy. Elle has experience actually racing in Moab. So it was great that she got you on the right path and also pushed you to go fast because I was really, from our perspective, bro, Mark Vogel looked so good at that aid station. You left and he was like just a trot, and he like runs over to the bathroom. He goes over, he's eating some fruit, and I'm like, he looks really fresh. I'm worried that he's gonna catch him. Turns out that that's not what happened. Carson is the one that he looked rough. He was like laying down in the back of a truck, but I'm like, that homie is tough. So on this next stretch, you guys, I was hoping that 1.5 to 2 miles would extend. We're just like refresh on the live tracking, refresh. And you could not drop him.
Mm-mm. Couldn't drop him. Yeah, we left that aid station, and it's basically a 20-mile freaking section, dude. It was 19.8 miles or something, 4,200 feet of climbing, and the first 3,300 feet of climbing is right after the aid station. You walk like half a mile on the road, and you hit this super popular Monkey Rock trail, full of families on Sunday, on Father's Day, and it's just exposed as all get out. Elle and I are climbing this thing, and if there's an inch of shade, I'm walking over to that, and I'm getting shade as I'm climbing. And that climb lasted forever. Like, I couldn't remember running down it that long. I know Liz and I the day before had just ran down it together.
Yeah.
I didn't remember it being that long, dude. It was like 5 miles
Well,
of road.
what mile are you at now?
171.
Maybe that's why it was so long.
Yeah, dude. So I'm at 171 to 176 on this climb. We never saw him. So we knew we had like a 30-minute, 40-minute advantage on him. I don't remember how much time we had on him, but I just
Well,
kept...
the plan was that we would hang out at the previous aid station, and I was going to text Elle and tell her when each of the next 2 guys left the aid station.
Yeah. And you did, right? So what was my lead there at mile 175?
I can't remember the time, but when I said Mark is out, she responded like 2 miles.
Oh yeah. She said we had 2.1 miles.
So I knew that. I was like, oh, cool. They got a 2-mile lead.
And a 2-mile climbing lead, much different than just a 2-mile downhill or road lead.
2 miles in this type of race is nothing.
Especially if a 2-mile climbing lead, you got a 40-minute lead, 40, maybe even 45.
Yeah. I mean, it was good. We'll take it.
But it's nothing.
It wasn't, we weren't comfortable with that.
No.
I'm like, these guys they could catch him.
Yep.
So this was a whole different experience for us. This was like racing, like you mentioned. Elle did a good job pushing you, and I was like, he didn't lose that lead.
No, Elle had it so dialed. She she was like, okay,
Salt.
yeah. She's like, Jake, I want you to take a sip of knack every 10 minutes. I want you to slow drip the knack every 10 minutes. And I want you to take water every 10 minutes and alternate them. So I just look at my watch. On the 5, I drink 3 sips of water. On the 10, I drink 3 sips of knack. Just repeat, repeat, repeat. Next thing you know, we've gone 3 hours and I'm fully hydrated. She's literally hand feeding me um, salt, ibuprofen, caffeine every couple hours, and fruit snacks. I'm not kidding you when I tell you she's feeding me. I'm power hiking and she stops and I just open my mouth and she drops them in. She would drop it in my mouth and then slap my face twice. Yeah, she goes, "Here you go. All right, let's go." And we just keep plugging. Yeah, it was awesome. It was pretty cool.
Yeah, very good. And we're waiting for you at Spooner. No crew access. People are really starting to pay attention on Instagram, friends and family, like refresh carpal tunnel from the refresh.
Mm-hmm.
Like, what is happening? Th- So people are very invested. Um, and I'm thinking they didn't lose that lead. And as these guys that are chasing him are very strong, is this their strategy? Like, I'm just going to keep you right within striking distance, and then I'm going to pounce on you and steal this podium.
Mm-hmm.
So you text us and you're like, I want a plate of fruit, you know.
Yeah. So Elle says, "Okay, what do you want at the aid station?" Well, she's very strategic. She's like, "Okay, we're 4 miles out. I want you to just start thinking about it. I'm not going to tell them until we're a mile and a half out. But Jake, start thinking about what you want to eat. Don't answer right now." Like, so she would like plant stuff in my head to get me thinking about it. "Okay, Jake, we're a mile and a half out. What do you feel like eating? They have this, 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 this." And I said, I'll take pasta and meatballs, and I'll take some watermelon and some grapes. So she phones it in, and the people listening need, it's important to understand that Spooner is the last aid station. This is mile 190, and crew's not allowed.
208 miles total. So you
Yeah,
got 18
I
miles
got
left.
18-mile section to finish this race off, but you have to cross a 4-way freaking highway. That's why crew isn't allowed there. So right before I cross the highway, Jance is there, Henry, a couple of people are there, Bree's there, like cheering me on, but they can't be at the aid station. So you got to the aid station early, prepped my bladder, my flask, and the plate of food. There was a Ziploc bag full of fruit. This was the first aid station since mile 60 that I did not sit down. The only aid station the first aid station I did sit down at was at Heavenly at mile 63. So the first 3 aid stations, I'm just rolling right through. Grab my drop bag, grab my water, roll. At mile 63, I sit down with you guys, pick you up. And then from then on out, I'm taking my time. I'm 20 to 25 minutes probably at every aid station. And at Spooner, it's freaking go time. There is no time to sit down. Just before I cross the street, Jance sprays my legs with the icy hot stuff that he'd been doing on every single aid station. And I say hi to Bree real quick. Love you. Sorry, I got to run. And this 4-way freaking highway. These cars are going 70 miles an hour. And I'm delusional at mile 190 and I got to cross this road with Elle. We cross the road, get into the aid station, and you're there just ready to go. You've got the bladder, you've got the 2 flasks, and the dude brings over this plate of food that I don't think I could eat on a regular day. It was like a mound of pasta and meatballs. And he goes, he's like, he goes, I don't know why he made so much food for you. And I go, I don't want that.
He cooked it for you. You're like, I don't want that.
And then, so he scoops 3/4 of it back into the bowl, whatever, then brings it over to me. And I ate what, 5 or 6 scoops,
Yeah.
2 or 3 meatballs standing up. And you guys are repacking my bag, you and L. So my pack is all reset. I grab my headlamp and I'm like, just make sure my headlamp's out of the back. Let's put it in the front. I'm going to need that. And I'm like, let's just go. I'll take all the fruit in a Ziploc bag. All the fruit in a Ziploc bag, grab my poles, and we just bounce.
Dude, this is a race. This is no more aid stations. This is next thing is the finish line for a podium at the Tahoe 200. That's wild. And our awareness, we're like, I mean, I told you, I'm like, I hope you can feel the energy of all of your supporters because
Yeah.
we're getting blown up.
Yeah, you put some pressure on me when we were climbing up those zigzags. You're like, hey man, I just want you to know, you got a lot of people watching you and supporting and messaging. And I was just like, oh my gosh, I can't let them down.
Yeah, you're not doing this alone. Like,
Yep.
you've been through a lot, bro. You've had all of the indictment in prison and the struggles with that, and you're a business owner and a father. You're the leader. And a lot of that you're like, you probably take things on a lot, and to be quite real, you've had people screw you over. So you take on a lot. So for you to like, I wanted you to realize like you're not alone. I mean, yes, you're doing 200 miles, but the energy and the love and the support and the investment of all of these people and all these messages that you were getting. I'm like, dude, people are invested.
Yeah, I felt that 100%. So I hadn't checked my phone. I put on airplane mode 24 hours before that. I hadn't even turned my phone on to make a call or a text for at least 24 hours before that. Quite locked in. But like I knew from you and the crew and the team, I'm like, so much is riding on this. And I put a lot of pressure on myself, which, can be bad. But I think in this instance was like, no, dude, you're doing this for you and your family and everyone that is like watching and following and messaging. Like this is big. This might be a once in a lifetime opportunity to podium at the Tahoe 200.
Yeah, like it's almost like a movie. Like you're not supposed to be there. Like this is if you can hold this guy off for one more aid station, you are going to podium at your first 200-mile race.
It's
And, and trust me, I am aware. I'm like, well, I am pacing you. I'm certainly not going to let this happen. And so you were right. In and out of that aid station. And I talked to Elle before and I'm like, what should we try and drop this dude on the climb? Or do you think we should just go nice and steady? She's like, do not try and drop him. Just take it, just do your pace to the top. And then once you get to the top and you can run, let it go. Just let it fly. So we're going up to the top and you're like, you're not in the mood to talk. You're like, Mick, I don't want to talk. Just get me there.
yeah, you yeah, you were talking about
You're like, I don't care.
yeah, you were talking about the podcast, the recap. You're talking about all this stuff, and I go, I go, Mick, I don't care about that right now. Let's just get me to the finish line.
I'm like, well, be careful what you wish for, my friend.
Yeah, exactly.
So we L was gonna text us when the following two people were leave the aid station, just like the previous ones. And I was hoping that we get to the top of this climb. We got like a 3 mile, what was that, 2,500 foot
Mhm.
climb, and we were hoping to get to the top of that by the time they left, but it didn't happen. So anyway, we get to the top of this. We got a 2 mile lead, and this is intense because I'm like, 2 miles. He cannot catch us. What I want to do, and I told you this, is I want to double that. I want to go from 2 to 4 miles. I want to be 4 miles ahead. I don't want this dude to catch us
Mm.
because obviously you can make up 2 miles with this. So, how are you feeling during this climb, during this section?
I knew during the climb that I was still moving strong. We climbed strong. It wasn't, when you're climbing a death marchy, kind of like wobbly, slow, kind of, that wasn't it. It was like we were power hiking and I'm throwing down watermelon while I'm power hiking. I want to make sure to eat every watermelon and every grape. I actually dropped a watermelon and I would just leave it on the trail. It's a watermelon. I kicked it and all the water off the
I
trail.
saw this.
Do you know why I did that? I was like, I don't, I was like he was tracking us down like we were a game. And like, I don't want him to see fresh tracks that there's a wet piece of watermelon. That was in my head. Like, I don't want him to see a fresh watermelon that we were just here. I'm like, so I kicked it
That's
all off the
funny.
trail so that, because if you see a watermelon that's like wet and fresh, like, oh, we are close. He just dropped that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we get to the top of this climb. We've got at that point we probably had around 14. It, I think we'd gone like 4 miles, right?
Mhm.
We got about 14 miles left. And I think we still have a 2 mile lead at this point. And I'm recording you. I'm like, look at this guy running, how he's running so good after almost 200 miles. And I'm thinking, like, let's just hold this 2 miles, and we can get updates on where this guy's at. Bro, if he is catching you, that means he's running up that climb. That's how strong we were going. And if he's running up that and catches us, you're just like, cool. Like,
Mhm.
good for you,
Yeah.
Hayden Hawks.
Yeah.
And we finally get to the, because you told me this even before. You're like, if we get to a flat or downhill section, nobody's catching us.
Yep.
And then I get a text and it says, I think there's like, we keep going. We keep going. We're up and down. There's 10 miles left. I get a text from Elle and it says he closed the gap. That's all I got. After our effort of
I'm
climbing,
like, we just went that hard for 8 miles and he closed the gap.
he closed. I'm like, we're screwed.
Yeah. I'm like, we got 10 more miles and he's right on our
He
tail.
caught us.
So we both keep looking back, nothing, nothing, nothing. And all I can think of is I'm running as hard as I can right now. And if he passes me, then he earned it. I'm not laying down and just giving him the podium. He's going to have to come take it from me. You got to come take it. And I told Elle in the last mile or two with her, I was like, this is ours to lose. The podium is ours to lose. We are in the spot. It's ours to lose. And he's got to come take it if he wants it.
So I'm like, uh, if he caught us, and I'm like, I'm checking my phone. I'm like, I need to confirm this. So I finally get some service, and I hit the tracking, and I hit refresh, and it says he's 0.2 ahead of us. And I'm like, well, dude, my heart just sank. I'm like, he he got it. I'm like, obviously he hasn't passed us. I know that. But the GPS it's just like it knows that he's right there. Like maybe he's not in front of us, whatever, but he's like around the corner. He's going to pass us at
Mhm.
any moment. And that's when everything changed. And you probably don't like me anymore.
You yeah, that was now we're at I mean, my according to my Strava, mile 203 that I ran was my third fastest mile in the entire race. Mile 98 and 99 were my two fastest miles with Liz on the downhill that we were cooking pretty good. But my third fastest mile in the entire race was mile 203. And this guy's catching me?
Yeah,
Okay, well, you earned it, dog. If you can beat me at my very, very best, that's what I asked for. I'm not holding your hand going into the finish line. We talked about this on the other podcast.
that's right.
If this dude catches me and he wants to, and we're gonna lollygag in and be like, "Yay, we both took third." Beat me, earn it. Take this away from me. Take third. Take the podium. And so, dude, you had me running so hard. I couldn't breathe.
I know.
I was wheezing,
I know.
wheezing, and I'm still maintaining the knack every 10 minutes, water every 10, just because I didn't want to just bonk with
No,
5 miles to go.
yeah, I was still giving you the salt.
Yep, you're giving me the salt. My mouth starts getting all swollen. My lips are swollen. I got cankers all inside my mouth. My tongue is swelling. Like even when I tried to talk to you, I couldn't talk because my tongue was swollen.
Sores all over it.
I had sores all in my mouth. And I was like, we need to get to the finish line. One, because this dude's catching us. Two, because my mouth is freaking hammered. And three, I can't breathe, dude. We couldn't get there fast enough. And then the sun sets.
Well, these weren't even like it was a 10-minute mile, but it wasn't because we couldn't get. I was getting frustrated because we couldn't get the downhill that we wanted. You would get it for like a half a mile and then it would climb again. So you're doing 8-minute miles down, but
Mm-hmm.
then you got to climb up and you're doing a 12. So it nets a 10.
Mm-hmm.
But you were hauling. And I'm like, he's going to catch a toe
Oh, and I did.
and just eat it. And
Yeah.
I mean, I have never spoken to you like that, I don't think, ever. I was screaming at you at
I
points
felt like I was on the football team in high school and you were the head coach.
yeah, I'm like, back there is a losing pace. Up here is a winning pace. Now get your ass up here.
Oh, 10-4.
I mean, bro, we went hard. I was pushing you hard, but I'm
Bro.
like, when you're done, be done. Lay down in the dirt. But we're not letting this guy freaking pass you
Oh,
at 203 miles to take away this podium. And
yeah.
I mean, I just know at any moment he's going to come around the corner.
Yeah. And then with like 5 miles to go, 4 miles to
Bree's
go.
texting me going, "Can you please push him harder?"
Oh, you're like, if you only
Your
knew.
wife.
Yeah. And when you were like, I know you don't want to hear this right now, but you need to stay right behind me. And I'm behind you going, I'm doing it as fast as I go. I'm just like, and I was moving fast, but it just, in the moment needed to be faster because of the fear that he was coming. But then the sun goes down and you're using your phone as light
And
and
the GPX
and the
file and
GPX
yeah, like
file. And that's when I was like, oh no, he is gonna see us now. Now it's tough to see you in the trees because the
you
trees
go,
are just the
you go,
trails are so awesome. They're covered in these huge pines.
you go, Mick, stop leaving me.
Yeah, I got so mad at you. I finally go, stop, stop. And you stopped. And I walk up to you and I go, stop leaving me.
I'm like, then stay up with me.
Yeah. And I'm like, I'm trying. And you just left. But then I was like, hey, we need to roll. I go, let's go with our like lights off
And you're like,
and whisper.
whisper.
I go, stop yelling at me. I go, just whisper and we're going no lights. I go, I don't want him to see our headlamps or our Kogala waist lamps. Because if he sees light, he's going to get a surge of energy and he'll catch us. So we went incognito SEAL Team 6 for 20 minutes
20, 30 minutes in the dark, just running, like not
from
even
9 to
talking, not
9:30.
even like we were not talking, just stealth mode.
Yeah, 9 to 9:30 in the forest. I mean, tiny half moonlight, tiny bit of light, and I'm hunched over because I can barely roll and I'm just following you in these climbs, and there's zigzaggy climbs, and they go down for a second, and all I can think of, I keep saying to you, Mick, why do we keep climbing? I'm like, now I'm hallucinating.
Yeah, I mean, and it got to the point where it was so dark down in there that we're finally like,
Yeah,
turn it on, turn the lights on,
yeah,
we can talk again.
because like, we couldn't see any lights.
Well, hang, and I told you, I was like, take your Kugala
Yeah,
out of
yeah,
the aid station. You're like, no, because we're gonna like, we could finish in the light, dude.
yeah,
I got my headlamp, you got your Kugala, right?
yeah.
So we're going, and you're like, dude, I can't see. Can I have your Kugala? You can have my headlamp.
You're like, okay, here.
Yeah, so we switch. I take your headlamp. It dies 30 seconds later. We got 2 miles left, and I'm like, okay,
I had spare batteries.
we don't have time.
We don't have time to
So
swap out batteries.
I hit the flashlight on my phone,
Yeah.
and you're like, what are we doing?
Yeah. I'm like, Mick, why do we keep climbing?
You're like, we're running in circles.
You're just like, shut up. I
I know.
got the GPX. I go, I know you have the GPX, but it just feels like we're going the wrong way, Mick.
Again, yeah, we're just cruising. You're like, this is wrong. Something's wrong. And I'm like, Jake, would you shut up about the route? I got us. Just run.
Yeah. Yeah. I
W-
was coming. I was coming. I was coming at you multiple times of like, something's wrong. I remember saying, we were just here. We just did this loop.
Yeah.
We just did this. You're like, Jake, I got the GPX. I'm
Which
like, I know you do.
we found out there were runners that got lost there
Really?
at that point in the race, like behind you,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
but that got lost and got off to like cost them a long time. I don't know how long.
Yeah, that section was super weird the last couple miles. And I was totally depleted. Sun was down. It's dark. And for the first time in the 200, like I'm hallucinating. Like I'm seeing figures, like tree stumps and trees and big rocks. They look like faces or like side silhouettes of like a man sitting on a chair. And I never thought it was like I knew it was a log. I'm like, that looks like someone's freaking face. I get a little closer. I'm like, yep, I knew it was a log. But for 20 minutes, I was seeing weird stuff. I felt like we're going in circles. And I honestly was like, I don't know if we're ever going to get there.
Well, and then on top of it, your GPS stopped updating. It wasn't working.
Oh, yeah. So all the friends and family at home and at the finish line.
Everybody is like, it hasn't updated in over an hour. So it come like they've been following the whole time. It comes down to, is this guy a quarter mile behind us? Is he a quarter mile ahead of us? Like what is they don't know what's happening. And I stopped responding to everyone.
Mick goes dark.
Yeah. Because I didn't have time. We're like
Hmm.
we're rolling. So nobody really knows. Like, did he get lost? Did he get hurt? Why aren't we getting any updates? Did he get past? Like, what is happening?
Hmm.
And I'm like swearing at the hills and the trees because of all these climbs. I'm like, can we just get the downhill, please? And then we could just take it home. And we're just waiting every moment for to see his light,
Oh, yeah.
to see
Oh,
when he's going to come around the corner and take this from us.
yep.
All I'm thinking about is L's text that said he closed the gap. And I see that the GPS says he's ahead of us, but I know he's not.
Hmm.
So I'm looking back and I'm like, Jake, I've never been more proud of you in my life.
I
I'm
remember.
yelling at you, but I'm like, you are, your bro, your face and your lips, and you're just like, I can't breathe. But somehow you kept that pace.
Yeah. I remember you saying, I've never been so proud of you in my whole life, man. And right then we turn the corner and I see the ski resort ski lift tracking thing. And then you hear the bells.
They saw the light, the Kagala light.
Yep. We turn that corner and just ding, 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 ding. And the crowd goes freaking nuts,
Yeah.
dude. Like I just got chills saying that.
We're
And
like
I'm like,
we're like, "We did it."
we did it.
I'm like, "You just freaking podiumed, bro."
I'm like, oh my gosh. I go, dude, we freaking did it. And we turn the corner and I can literally hear my kids screaming and my wife of all the crowd screaming and the lights. Like I could individually hear each of my kids' voices and my wife's. Yeah, dad, Jake. And I can hear this. And I'm like, it was just such a surreal moment. We come down and I hand you the Kogala and I'm headed towards the finish line. And I'm like, dude, Mick, we did it. And
We
you're
give a big old high
high
five.
five.
It looked like it was all this media, like all these cameras and lights and
Yeah. And I come through the finish line and I just am walking. I just start walking and I just broke down, dude. I just dropped my poles and completely just lost it. Like I got emotional on the last two switchbacks when I could hear my kids. Like I started getting emotional before I even got to the finish line. I was like, oh my gosh, I did it. And like I'm getting choked up. Like I'm not even at the finish line, but I can hear it. I'm there. And I cross. And it's just this drop of emotion of like all this weight and everything you've put into it and all this, not just the race and the endurance of a 200 miler, but it's like the buildup of decade that we've been through. And it's like doing this together as a family and a team, the crew, the pacers, organizing all this is like all of that is like comes to a head is like we did it. I never felt like I did this. I got there and it's just like we did it. And I just dropped. I couldn't believe it.
that's what I that's what I was hoping for, that you leave it all out
Yeah.
on the course.
So I had nothing left. There was nothing.
Perfect.
Yeah. Dropped the pole. I just grabbed my face and head and just got rushed. Like I didn't you don't really ever I mean, you kind of start to pre plan how you're gonna celebrate. I don't know. It just hits you with full force of emotion. And then everyone just like it's like rushing the court where you hit the winning field goal and everyone rushes the field. That's what it felt like.
I mentioned to you on the way home, I was like, it's crazy to me that like the celebration of finishing a 200 miler just kind of went away.
Yeah.
That wasn't even what I'm like, oh yeah, and that. The fact that you podiumed, like you did that. I'm like, that just trumped. I'm like, oh, I forgot to congratulate you that you just did a freaking 200 miler. But it was like wild, dude, because like I think you should describe after you got up off the ground with your family, what happened. Like this is all new to you.
Yeah. Um, I get up. I think it was the race director. Someone gets up and congratulates me and says a few words. They take me over into a canopy to take my post race picture. They do that with every finisher. Take my post race picture. They hand me my third place plaque. I get to go pick my belt buckle. But it was just this moment of seeing like all the faces of the crew, all these guys and girls like talking about that moment. Like, holy crap. I mean, the energy and the vibe was like insane. It was unreal. Like, I was still delusional, dude. I was still like out of it in a lot of ways, but I mean, I was comprehending what was happening and what happened, but I was still very much like my body needs a break. So yeah, the vibes at the finish line and the feeling and emotion is not how I imagined it at all. I think that's because of the race element. The last 52 miles that was legit racing just brought a whole nother element to that whole event. I did not expect to be in a race. I didn't think I'd be pushing that hard for 52 miles in an effort to try and podium. So the finish line that I had imagined in my head as part of my preparation of like, you are going to finish no matter what, even if you through hike it or you walk it in, you're going to finish and it's going to be a great moment. That was the mindset going in, was like, you will finish no matter what, to you're going to finish and you're going to podium. And the only three people ahead of you are going to be Harry, Mike McKnight, and Mika Thews. The first three people ahead of you are pros, and you're going to be the first non-pro to finish this race, and you're going to podium. That brought so much more emotion and celebration to the finish line that I didn't prepare for. I wasn't prepared to emotionally handle that, and it put me in this place of like, holy crap, dude, you can accomplish some amazing things if you put the work in, if you're dedicated, and you surround yourself with a great team. I think our team was elite. We had such a great team, and to be able to support me as an athlete, like my athletic talents or my determination, my mindset, but you still got to have the support of all those great people around you. And ultimately, that's what I was able to celebrate coming in at podium and totally exhausted, laying it all out there on the trail. I left it all out there in Tahoe.
Yes, you did. I feel like everybody on your team, crew, and pacers were exactly where they needed to be. Some of that was luck, some of that was strategy. But yeah, but at the end of the day, let's be real. You had to take every step of that race. You had to go up and train early in the morning climbing, go do it again at night. You had to do that. So yes, we played a part in that. But you your determination, your consistency and the discipline in your training and just your grind through the heat, through the cold, through the pain. You did that, bro. You did that. And you just freaking crushed that race. I mean, that's so cool. So, I mean, it inspires people to, like Jen went and signed up.
Yeah.
I'm like, I would like to go down for the 100. I don't do this 100-mile warm up thing.
Yeah.
So, yeah, so I mean, you're certainly inspiring your kids. Talked about that. And then we have all of our runners with DC Peaks. Like, what did you take away as a race director?
I took away a lot. I mean, as a race director, I think it's so important to care for the runners and like really love and make sure every runner feels important, podium or not, right? DNF or not, back of the pack, middle of the pack, whatever. I think that's so important. I would say the Tahoe 200 did a great job with their course markings. Their aid stations were awesome. Volunteers on point. They did a lot of great things. Um, I think that it gets me very excited to kind of see where the sport goes. And now that I've done a 200, like how many 200s are out there? Like, is this a thing? Like, how big is this going to be? I'm, I really like now that I can speak to the experience of attending and completing a 200. Like, I think that just makes us more well rounded in the ultra space, whether it's with the podcast or with DC Peaks, or maybe I'll go run another 200. I don't really know what's next for me on the calendar, but as a race director, learned a lot watching those guys just grind and volunteer and run an event for 5 days. That's a little different than a 50 miler that we do.
Yeah, I would say so. Oh man, yeah, what a crazy experience. I think that I said something to you out there. I'm like, maybe 200 miles is your calling. Do you remember what you said to me?
No.
You go, I hope not.
I did.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, yeah, I don't know, maybe we've found the distance. I've said for a while now the 100K is my favorite distance, but, I mean, Mike McKnight figured out long time ago that 200s was his thing, and he was not wrong. I don't know if it's my thing or not. I know that I loved it. I know that I learned so much from it. Um, but that was a week. We left on a Wednesday to Tahoe, and we got back on Tuesday. We were gone 7 days. Just the dedication away from work and family and everything else, that's a lot. That's a lot to be able to do that. I'm just very, very, very blessed, very thankful to be in a spot with work, with my family, with my physical health and strength to be able to go and do that. It's an experience that no one can ever take from me and Bree and my kids. And I'm incredibly grateful that I could just have the opportunity to go and do that and to be surrounded by people that love me and care for me. And then on top of it, like the cherry on top is to be able to finish on the podium like that. It was a perfect week. Everything lined up, and man, I don't know if I'll ever replicate that again. And if I don't, that's totally fine. This experience will live with my family and all of you guys forever. So
Yeah,
thank you.
absolutely. Very proud of you. I mean, it like you mentioned, it wasn't a perfect race. There are things that we can tweak and learn from and this and that, just little things, but all in all, um, damn near a perfect race. And the fact that you're like, it was about my kids, my wife, you became a better man. That's all more the journey, that's all more important than the actual race itself. Um, super proud of you, dude.
Thanks, man.
Congratulations on the whole thing.
Thanks,
It
buddy.
was an honor to be a part of it.
I appreciate you running crew captain, pacing me twice. I had my other, shout out to my pacers, you and Jen and Taya, Liz Butler, L. Jones, um, Bree and Stephen Irvine are there, crewing and videoing and doing all of that, and taking care of all that stuff that has, just creating content and really making sure my pack was right all the time. There was just, Jance and Henry who were on my dogs, making sure my feet were good. Just shout outs to all of them. I know that your mother in law came up with your two boys. Um, awesome having them there. So yeah, the crew is huge and awesome. And I told Bree last night as we laid our heads down on our pillows in our own bed finally. I said, hey, there's no way I accomplished that without you there. Like I appreciate you coming up and being there and being a part of it. And she said it changed my life forever. And we get to have that. That's the moment we created. And I think if we take that anything out of this, it's like we create those moments. They don't just happen. It's not luck. We are the creators of our own luck, and we get to create those experiences for ourselves and for our friends and family. And that's what it's all about. And the next aid station is that. And that's what the next aid station is like taking you and your family to those next levels and getting there one step at a time and surrounding yourself with good people. So this has been a fun chat and a follow up. We're going to come back next week and get back on pace with a draft and a pre-race, routine. But for now, I want to thank BC Peaks and Rockstar for being our sponsors. And thanks for listening. Come back and do it again. This has been the Next Aid Station.